My name is Maria Ann von Heinrichsen. To the French, I was known as Mademoiselle Doctor. Colonel Nicolai, the head of the German espionage service in the years leading up to the First World War, called me the mistress of spies, and for once, he and I were in complete agreement. I taught Mata Hari everything she knew. At school, I didn't perform well. The only subjects I enjoyed were foreign languages. I excelled at French, English and Russian. I even learned a little Spanish, which was rare in those days. When I finished school, I used to accompany my father on trips to Paris. He planned a business trip to St. Petersburg and suggested I go with him in order to perfect my Russian accent. While I was there, I met a military attaché, a Prussian cavalryman, and we became lovers. My father didn't seem to mind. When the time came for us to return to Berlin, I told my father I wanted to remain in St. Petersburg. One evening, at his apartment, the Prussian officer told me that the Russians had a new artillery gun and that it was his job to find out about it. He was very clever. He didn't tell me outright, but let it emerge gradually. A few weeks went by, and then he introduced me one evening to a Russian officer who paid me great compliments throughout the evening. He said he loved my Teutonic beauty, my blonde hair, red lips and fair complexion. In front of my lover, he offered to pay me a great deal of money to sleep with him. I realised by my lover's lack of protest what was expected of me. During the night I spent with him, the Russian told me about the gun, and I in turn told my lover. He was very pleased with me. He suggested I return to Berlin. He told me to go to an organisation called Abteilung 3. I didn't know then that this was the German Secret Service. It was there that I met Mata Hari for the first time. To me, she seemed rather gauche, but she had promise. I flourished as a spy. It furnished me with all the mental satisfaction I could have wished for, but I found I had to be extremely scrupulous. I met a great deal of resistance from certain men who could not tolerate being given instructions from a 19-year-old woman. I learnt to be ruthless when necessary. On one such occasion, I enlisted as my assistant a young Belgian man who had managed an efficient system of counter-espionage among Belgian patriots. One of my most highly trusted recruits was dispatched to France on a mission that had entailed much careful preparation. He was arrested the moment he arrived in France. When I received the news, I sent for my Belgian assistant and reminded him that there were only two people in the world who could have jeopardised the mission, me and him. I told him it wasn't me. I told him that whoever had betrayed my recruit would have to suffer the consequences. I drew out an automatic pistol from the drawer of my desk and shot him once through the heart. After spending 2 years in Antwerp, I was recalled to Lurch, where I met Mata Hari for the second time. I was to instruct new recruits in preparation for the war. We were looking for particular kinds of men and women, rather than for particular experiences. There were 4 main areas of instruction. The first, and most important, was the methods of passing on information. Contrary to what one imagines, the main difficulty facing an agent isn't acquisition of information, but the relaying of it. The other main area of training was in technical knowledge. Nothing could be written down. Everything had to be carried in the head. This was the main body of their instruction. The recruits were then finished. This involved learning to adopt the etiquette, mannerisms and traits of the country to which they were being sent. To illustrate this, I told them the story of how we were able to trap a very skilled Allied agent through a very small detail. This agent was travelling as a fully accredited representative of an established Berlin commercial house. While having lunch one day in Munich, he said thank you each time the waitress served him a course of his meal. The waitress grew suspicious because German salesmen tend not to be so courteous to waitresses. She reported her suspicions to the police, who in turn informed us. Finally, the Academy gave them a run-through of basic acting techniques. Mata Hari's code name was H21. She was instructed by me, so the letter H referred to my surname, and she was my 21st woman recruit to graduate from the Academy. On the last of their 8 days at the Academy, I gave a speech to the graduating recruits, including Mata Hari. I told them that when I'd first been recruited by Abteilung 3, I had had a magnificent instructor. He had told me that I would experience many difficulties in the profession, but that I was exactly the kind of person who would excel at it. He had taught me to be intuitive but circumspect. He had also taught me to be a student of character. other people's as well as my own. He said I would receive no credit if I was successful and no mercy if I failed. The ultimate accolade as a spy was not to be known. I told him that all this was potent and sophisticated to a 17-year-old, and I never forgot his words. I urged them all to heed his words too, and with that, I said goodbye. After she left the academy, I never saw Matahari again.